see more and more organizations in '08 focus on multiple regulations that they have to be in compliance with. The other thing is, we've heard several speakers mention it, Federal Information Security Management Act, in terms of FISMA, and that last bullet really summarizes the entire essence of that regulation, which is that you'll have the capabilities to prevent unauthorized access, use, disclosure, disruption, modification, or destruction. And that last bullet should be the opening line in any organization's information security strategy document. I'd recommend you guys go back and put together a 3 to 5 page, a very short, to the point, crisp security strategy document. That's an excellent bullet to use as a starting point to tailor for your organizations. And then I think we heard, I was in Indiana a few weeks ago delivering a presentation to the security and privacy group over there, and they are impacted by PL 125. 39 states. I live in California. We've got SB 1386. We've got Assembly Bill 1950 that go far beyond notification of consumers just if there's a breach, but any type, but to make sure that you've got the appropriate security capabilities protecting consumer information. So we are going to be under a lot of pressure depending on what state we live in and which residents' information our computer systems come into contact with to protect that information. So if we don't have those capabilities, we'll be in violation of state regulations. So I think we've got to really start broadening and clearly identifying the regulations that impact. And finally, in terms of a framework that I think everyone should be looking to learn more about, because outside of the US, and there's a very strong reason for my recommendation, because outside of the US, no one really cares about HIPAA or FISMA and all of that. What they do care about is the International Standards Organization's 27002 in Europe, in Japan, in Australia, across the Middle East. That's a framework everyone knows. And this was updated in 2005. It was originally published in 2000. In 2005, they added a new clause, number 9, Information Security Incident Management. So very important for those of you that are going to be specializing in this particular area, become more familiar with this standard. And my last 3 engagements with American firms in the heartland of our country here, all of them have told us that, Ali, we want to be compliant with HIPAA, but the framework that we are moving towards is ISO. So we are forced, when we do our risk analysis, not only to publish in our report what are the areas that they're compliant or not compliant with HIPAA, but we also document the same from an ISO perspective. So that becomes something that we are seeing the industry ask more for. Generally, we are seeing more information with respect to security that organizations are in fact generating, but that doesn't necessarily mean we know what to do with all of that information. And the bigger the organization, the more it is watching its employees. We see a dramatic rise in surveillance of employees, members of the workforce in 2007, and I think that trend is going to continue. We are still struggling to identify, when we do get attacked, where are these attacks coming from, who's behind those attacks, and how is this attack being executed. That's the reason why in the ISO 27002 international document, they added that whole new clause on security incident management, because to me, as you look to get better with security, the only way you're going to get intelligence to improve yourself is by looking at the incidents that you have been able to uncover and learn from that to make your environment more. So the recommendations, and generally when I recommend, no one listens, but these are the things that, we would, it's like the situation at home, lost total control, right? The technology architecture, the end clients is a disaster. You can't manage thousands of PCs anymore. The IT staff can't keep up with that. All the patch management between the operating systems and the applications is doing it. You got to look at thinning those end clients, making it very simple to manage and support those end clients. Bring all of that complexity back into that data center. So that's where you keep your focus in terms of your technology skills. And the other thing is servers. We've got too many servers in healthcare across any organization. Go back and take a look at your own organization. So you really need to start to consolidate those servers. Virtualization, blade servers are going to be the trend in 2008, 2009. And I think organizations are going to be forced into this just because of air conditioning and power requirements related to servers that need to be supported. Develop a plan for multi-tier storage architecture. real time. You need to have some real time capabilities. You cannot afford to lose patient information. A lot of organizations are backing up data once a day, and so what happens if disaster strikes 5 minutes before your data backup process starts? So your recovery point objective right there is 24 hours. And are the executives aware that you could lose 24 hours of data where you could never ever recover that information? So that's a problem. All organizations are going to be forced into having some type of real-time capability. And then in new acquisitions, negotiate very hard with vendors. Make compliance a key part of your vendor negotiation, security requirements that are consistent with your policies. It's very easy when you've got your policies articulated and all developed for you to include those as a part, the relevant ones with respect to documents. The types of security remediation activities that we are seeing being executed across the country in healthcare, organizations are taking a closer look at their firewall defenses. One of the reasons they are doing that is because more and more organizations are deploying voice over IP capabilities, like I mentioned, wireless, and they want to make sure that these firewall systems are intelligent enough to process all of that information. Your crown jewels is your data center. And so you've got to make sure that that data center is well protected. You know, a lot of times when I'm part of an audit team to look at healthcare organizations, the first place that I like to go to before I even get into the meetings with these people is to say, just give me a walkthrough of your data center. Just looking at the way that data center is run, is it clean, is it organized, the cables, are they all clearly marked, tells you a lot about the culture of what's driving technology and security inside that organization. Device and media control solutions is very important. USB drives is a big problem inside a lot of organizations. Identity management. More and more organizations are going to be funding projects for single sign-on, context management, simply because, and I just finished reading an excellent book titled Better, by Atul Gawande, and he's a top neurosurgeon. And his question, his thing when I was reading his book is, when they go from one patient to another patient, they've got to wash their hands. And to wash your hands properly, it takes 15 to 30 seconds. Now the question is a physician going to be spending their time washing hands, or are they going to be spending their time trying to log into all of these applications, which also takes time, depending on what your auto log off is and all of that. So single sign-on, context management, huge interest in the industry in that particular area. Anti-spam, antivirus capabilities, deployment of that. Encryption is no longer a Department of Defense luxury that private sector just looks at. It is a requirement, at least being driven to us, forget HIPAA, by the state regulations. You got to encrypt sensitive information or you're in violation of state regulations. So encryption, both at the server level, as including desktops, laptops, and all of that, but also in transmission is becoming very important, especially wireless. And then auditing capability to centralize that. The word that comes to mind with respect to security as you look at in 2008 is integrated. You're going to have multiple vendors. You're going to have technologies in terms of your communication fabric, probably deployed from Cisco or some other vendor. Operating system environment is going to be Microsoft or Unix based. You're going to have multiple vendors as a part of your solution. Got to make sure that they all kind of work together. And you've got to have your information security strategy document should clearly identify what's going to be your strategy in each of those areas. And there'll be additional areas for you to look at. What's my encryption strategy? What about authentication, access control, intrusion detection? You've got to have that intrusion prevention if you're going to get any intelligence about security incidents that may occur, firewall systems, and of course the physical security for your data center. And being born in India, I always go back and look at the ancient civilizations to see what we can learn from that. So China, Sun Tzu, some of you have read his works, and the true organization is so prepared for battle that battle has been rendered unnecessary. So as a first generation American, when I look for role models for myself in America, for me, the guy who really stands out, a hero for myself in the U.S., is Colin Powell. I remember when we went to the Gulf War the first time, and I was also reading his book at that time, My American Journey. He believes in overwhelming force. Before you do anything, make sure you've got overwhelming force. And that's the same kind of thing we've got to think about in information security and information technology. Much strategy prevails over little strategy. And the state of healthcare security today is we've got little strategy. And if things are going to get more secure, we've really got to change that.